everyone and happy Monday. We have another planner page and this is from World of Flowers. Now I am going to do this page in the actual World of Flowers book at some point. It is something that I've been planning on doing, and each little bit as a separate video with sort of bright colours and different backgrounds maybe. I haven't completely planned it, but this page I thought I would do really differently to that so that it's not the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it all blue. We're going to start with some distress ink as a background, and then we're going to build up some colour with some blues. I've grabbed a selection of pens and pencils and things to play with. Might not use them all, but we'll see how it all pans out. Just going to move those out of the way. Now distress ink comes in a little pad like that. Just move. I've got various bits around. Now I was given these little sponges to apply it with. I've only got one distress ink colour, which is this blue, and I just tap it on here and then apply it onto my paper. Now what I tend to do when I do a distress ink background, which is fairly rare to be honest, is I don't try and make it even. I keep it quite splodgy because I like the sort of uneven effect, really, that it provides us with something here but not, you know, not something completely static. That's not the right word. Saturated. Now distress ink is an interesting material to use. I find it dries very quickly, and so you can put your hand on top of it quite quickly, which is a good advantage for me. You can get an interesting texture. This particular one is called Tumbled Glass. It's a fairly pale blue, but as you can see in areas where I have where I've put a bit more down, it gets darker, so you can basically layer it up. Now I don't know whether much about distress ink and tools to apply it with. I just tend to dot it on. This tool here is very good for bubbles, so if you're doing a fishy underwater type scene, you know, you can do that sort of thing. You know, it's quite fun. But I assume some people put it on a lot more thickly and in a more sophisticated manner. But anyway, this is how I like to do it. I'm sure with everything there's no right or wrong. Now if you don't have distress ink, you could use pastel in the background. Now I would do it first as well. Often I do pastel last because it's smudgy, but you can lean on a piece of paper. I actually got one here so that it doesn't smudge it. I probably won't, because I was going to use pastel, and then I remembered that I had this and it might just be show you something different. This distress ink is a little bit risky. I find sometimes it goes through the page, so I'm quite happy using it here on my planner because I don't use the back. But if you do use the back, you might want to test a little area, you know, or I don't tend to use it in my precious books just in case, you know. I know some people use it a lot and they don't seem to find it goes through, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm layering it up too much or pressing too hard, I don't know. But anyway, you can also, you can just take the whole pad and splat it down if you want to do that, but I want this sort of more splodgy effect, so I don't want to do that, or else I get a square. I'll show you in a minute. It's quite it's interesting, but I won't show you on here. I'll show you. I've got I'll show you my scrap paper in a minute. So I'm just building up that colour a bit in the areas where I want it a little bit darker, but as you see, it's just a bit random. You might not like that randomness, and if you don't, then you might want to try and get it more even. Let me just show you on this scrap paper. So you can put it on here and do like a line like that, but it's not nice and even. If you take the pad, you can just print it like that. But again, you don't get, you get a line around the edge. You can do that a bit, but it's not very sophisticated. I think it's better to use a tool. Now, I don't know whether Tim Holt will do tools, but you can also sort of do this, and eventually you'll get a more saturated colour. Do you see? You just keep building it up. I don't want mine that dark because I'm going to go over it with pencils and pens and things. But there's the back. So, you know, you have to be a bit careful. I don't know if it's gone through on this page. No, maybe. No, I don't think so. I think those marks are just from transfer of pencil. So it hasn't gone through here because I've been being gentle. Okay, sorry, it's not in the middle. Right, we're going to leave that there. Oh, I just dropped my little tool. I don't know I was gifted those, so I don't know where this sponge came from, and I suspect you might be able to use a disposable makeup cloth or something like that, but you know, that one I just keep reusing because I just have the one colour, so I just keep reusing it the same colour. Right, we have our pencils and pens. I'm going to start with pencil and then add some pen in later. I've just grabbed a selection of pencils. I'll just find them out. They're all muddled up. I've grabbed some Arteza premium pencils because they happen to be on my desk, because I was using my Arteza premium for a different picture and I wasn't using any blues, so I grabbed these from that set. And I also just grabbed this one, which is a Koh-i-Noor dry marker in blue if I wanted a slightly different colour. So I think I'm going to grab the indigo blue. I'm going to lean that bit of paper that I was experimenting on. No, that's a mess. Hold on, I've got another bit. Here we go. Ooh, it's the folded bit. I'm going to lean on this just in case the ink's a bit wet, and I'm just going to work my way through the page. I think you want me to be a bit closer. Now, what I thought was I would use one colour for leaves and one colour for petals. But I'm thinking this indigo blue I might use for the stronger details and the leaves. So I'm thinking I might use it for here. Now I can't remember whether white pen works nicely on top of the distress ink, but I'm guessing it probably will. But we'll play with that later, so I'm just going to do these corners. I have a feeling this page is going to take some time because there's a lot of details going on here. But here I'm trying to do a bit darker around the edge. But I'm going to try and go fairly speedily. If I can hold down the page, it'll help me. There we go. So I'm just blocking out on this one. On this one for these leaves, I'm going to fade towards the tip. And I shall do that with all of my leaves and petals if I can. It doesn't really show up because it's so small. Now I'm wondering whether Johanna's new book is going to be this sort of size. But what she has said, she put a little ad up for it on her Facebook page yesterday. Anyway, and people were asking questions, and she said the pictures are drawn with the size of the book in mind. So rather than being shrunken down like this book is, or her miniature Enchanted Forest or whatever, they're drawn small so she, you know, had in mind the fact that people would be wanting to, you know, having to colour it at a mini size. So she's sort of says it's not going to be impossibly detailed. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. I've got the book on pre-order already. I've put it on pre-order from Waterstones, which is a UK bookseller. It's quite nice to support the smaller, I mean they're a big company, but rather than Amazon all the time. Although, you know, I use Amazon links a lot because I'm an affiliate, but I'm also an affiliate for Waterstones. And so, you know, Amazon, despite being big company and everything, you know, I benefit from them, so I can't be critical. But, you know, it's nice to support small as well. And I sort of think, you know, if for everything we buy from a big company, we buy from something from a small company, or a few things, or buy local, that sort of thing. You know, so I bought a book, a fiction book, the other day, and I bought it off Amazon because I didn't think about buying it from anywhere else. But I bought it to support the author because she had made a Facebook post saying she needed some money, and I thought, well, I'll buy her book. It's from 2018. It's quite an old book, but it's okay. It's fiction. It's aged a tiny bit, which is quite surprising, but not a lot. And I haven't read much, all of it anyway. But it's quite entertaining. Although there's a misprint in it, which fascinates me. It's a Penguin book. Penguin, big publisher. It's not a self-published or anything like that, like my books are. And so you wouldn't expect there to be a printing error, but on page 7, there's a, you know, the sort of copyright page. It's on page. It's a repeated, but slightly differently, on page 7. It's really weird. I'm going to write to Penguin and sort of say, what's going on with your book? And the whole page that should be there is just missing. So you're just like missing out. It's very old. I was going to buy an ebook. I probably wouldn't have had that trouble, but Amazon have changed the way they do ebooks, which is irritating. So you used to be able to just buy them, butterfly. You used to, just be able to buy the ebooks through the app, and then, you know, have it downloaded onto your device. So I tried to do that, but apparently now you have to buy them through their website and then work out how to download them onto your app. And I was like, ugh. So I didn't realise that was the problem. It just told me I couldn't buy it, so I just bought the paperback, and then husband explained to me after what's going on. It seems very odd. Why do that? Why make it hard? Surely they make the same amount of profit on their printed books as their ebooks. And ebooks, I was going to get an ebook because I thought it was better for the environment than having the paper. But anyway, it means I can pass it on to someone, but really I'd rather people bought their own copy to support the author. But anyway, I'll pass it on to someone who doesn't buy new books. So I'll pass it on to my sister, I think. She always gets her books from charity shops and things. And when she's read it, she'll put it in a charity shop as well. So at least someone, you know, worthy cause will gain from it. But anyway, I've got to finish reading it first. It takes me ages. I'm a really fast reader, but I don't read very often. I started reading in bed a little bit. So while the kids always use my ensuite bathroom for their showers, so I tend to go to bed quite early, but they're showering, so I settle in bed and read because they're nattering and not making a racket. Although sometimes I say to them, you need to be early because I'm tired. But it's quite nice to just lounge in bed and read for a bit. Bit of a luxury, isn't it? I think. But anyway, it's quite exciting, Johanna's new book. I can't remember when the release date is. Is it September or November? I'm not sure. I've got a few books, colouring books I want to finish before it comes out. I've got one beside me actually that I finished. I'm going to record a flip through, probably for tomorrow, maybe. Depends what else I'm recording. Phew, I'm having a hot flash. It was so cold this morning. I'm glad of a hot flash, to be honest. Although I could do with my fan in here. Whew. Yeah, it was so cold, the heating came on, and it's July. It's like, what's going on? But yeah, I was really cold in the night. It's like, I don't know if you get this, but wake up in the night thinking, oh, I'm cold. Try and snuggle up, pull the covers around me a bit more, try and go to sleep. My brain didn't go, oh, put some socks on, my feet were cold, put some socks on. Nope. My brain didn't go and get another blanket. Nope. My brain didn't go, shut the window. No. It just went, get back under the covers. It's like, really, you know. Oh well. Now you could, I'm using all the same pencil here. You could switch shades if you wanted between the little pictures. But I don't know. I'm just using the same one for them all. But you don't have to. I'm going to switch for the petals and use a different one. But as I say, it's up to you. And you could also use pens. I brought some pens through, but I'm not using them at the moment. I don't know. I haven't really planned this. I just brought through a handful of stuff, and just getting on with it really. Too carried away talking about random stuff. I've already been out this morning. It's yeah, it's 9:45 now, so time's getting on a bit. But I went down the canal to the grocery store, or supermarket as we call it. The boys are making themselves a macaroni cheese tonight, and we haven't got any flour, so we had to get some flour. I can't eat cheese. Yeah, I'm lactose intolerant, so they wanted to make themselves that. So I was like, great. So I'm going to make myself a tray bake and throw it in the oven early. You know, I just chop some sweet potato and some broccoli and throw some chunks of tofu. I'm just going to do the leaves from this one up here. I'll just chuck some tofu on it and some asparagus, courgette, something like that. Throw it in the oven, and then they can get on with theirs without me being in their way. I'll just leave them to it. And I said, you know, I've got a couple of books of recipes for cheese sauces. I've got a really easy one where you put the pasta and vegetables in a saucepan with milk, and then you sort of cook it in the milk and it thickens up a bit. You add stir in the cheese at the end and you get a sort of macaroni cheese. Easy. Or I've got another recipe in another book, but they were like, no mum, we know how to make it, we just make it up. Okay. But I have showed them how to do it quite a few times, so you know, we guess. We're not very good at following recipes really. So you know, a sort of a knob of butter, add a tablespoon of flour, and then slowly add milk till you get the right consistency, and then throw in the cheese. You know, it's a bit of guesswork. I mean, obviously you can't bake a cake with guesswork, but you can make quite a few things with guesswork. So they're going to do that, but they're going to put veggies in it as well. We always put vegetables in our macaroni cheese. So got some broccoli. Oh, they wanted broccoli spears. That's right, my son doesn't like this sauce. If you overcook broccoli, it's horrible. So we've got broccoli spears, and he said he'd put in some peas and corn and some sweet potato. That's right. He said something orange, carrots or sweet potato, and then boil the veg with the macaroni, make the cheese. What I used to do was cheat, as I would boil it all up, drain it off, put the flour on it, stir it around, and oh, I haven't done the centre of that one, and put a bit of butter and flour on top of the veggies, add the milk, and just sort of make the sauce on top of it. I Actually, I'm going to do the centres of these. Oh, I didn't do the centre of those though, did I? Or that one? I'm going to do the centres. I now haven't done the butterflies either. Can't decide what to do with them. Should we do the centre of these? Yeah. This is dry. I'm not going to lean on the paper. I find it irritating. That's why I don't like doing my pastel backgrounds first. That's why I decided to do Distress Ink, to be honest. I don't have to lean on the paper. At least not for the whole of the video. Yeah, I think it's so important for my boys to know how to cook. Boys or girls. You know, these days they move out of home quite young sometimes. I hope they don't, but you know, they need these skills. One of my nieces will be starting her 3rd year of university, and she can't really cook. And she sort of can, but she doesn't like to. She hasn't got confidence. I'm just going to finish this side bit and then we'll move across. And it's a shame. It means that she doesn't eat very well. So I want my boys to have confidence, and they've always helped me with cooking when they haven't been studying. And I just said, you know, holidays, you're going to cook on your own. So that's what they're doing tonight. Last week we didn't do it. Right, there's a lot going on in this picture, isn't there? I think we'll leave the butterfly. Although there are leaves on the butterfly, we might do those. Now I am trying to fade this colour as I go down to the tip of the leaves, but it's not really showing up. If you could just block it in, it's quite small. You could use a pen. You have to use a pencil. I am going to use some pens later, but probably not for the flowers and leaves. Probably for the border and for some details and stuff. You know, vague as you like. There we go. See, I'm thinking there's a few leaves, those leaf shapes, like that. I think I'm gonna do that blue. And are these leaves? Yeah, I'm gonna do these as leaves. There we go. It's really sunny now. Hopefully it'll be dry, but for tomorrow I'm not so worried about today. Now I've been out very selfishly. Just going to sharpen. This bit is so fine. My son's going to neighbouring town with his friends tomorrow shopping. So, well, he won't shop, I can't imagine. But he's just going to be with them having fun. And I hope it's not raining for them and be a bit miserable. But he'll make the most of it. Either way, I'm sure. I think he said they'll probably have lunch in McDonald's. Gosh, he hasn't been there for a long time. But he'll just go along with what they want to do. And to be honest, he probably won't be bothered if he doesn't have lunch. He's not that fussed. Though he always does have it, lunch, you know. He would just shrug and go, it's fine. I think I do that bit too. I quite like blue on its own. I think if I decided, you know, I'm thinking about this sort of page, I wouldn't want to do it in, say, orange or no, I think it'd be quite interesting in yellow. Green, I think it'd be a bit boring, to be honest. I think there's a reason why we have pottery in blue and white and blue. It just sort of works, you know. It's quite a pleasurable combination. Oh, we have some leaves. These are leaves. So I think it just works. And I thought these looked a bit like tiles, so doing them in the blue and white I felt sort of worked. That looks like a flower, but I've coloured it with this on the other side. Never mind. It was quite interesting yesterday. I joined a long time ago actually. I joined a Facebook group for my old school, and people sharing memories and things. It's been quite interesting reading. It suddenly seems to have had a lot of new members. I don't know if they've promoted it somewhere or something. And interestingly, one of my aunts used to go to the same school as me, obviously a long time. She's I think she's about 80, so yeah, 30 years before I was there she was there, and I have talked to her about it a little bit, but you know, she joined the group and put a photo of herself at the school, which was quite fun. Yeah, I think one of my cousins went there too. It wasn't a lot of my family went there, although we were all from the same town, you know, stayed in the same town. See, I think these are flowers, but maybe these little ones are leaves. But yeah, it's a lot of, like my mum's family, she was married to one of my mum's brothers, but my mum's family couldn't afford to go to that school because there was a uniform. They couldn't afford the uniform. So although some of them could have gone there, because you had to pass an exam to go there, now it's really difficult to get in. But when I went, I felt it wasn't that hard, personally. I mean, it might have just been that I was particularly capable, but I don't really think that was the case. I'm trying to find a light blue. I've got this aqua blue. I think this is the lightest to do the flowers. So I'm just going to block these in because they're so small. Oh, my neighbour's drilling. He's on a couple of walls away. I don't know how loud it is, but hopefully it's fine. Yeah, so my mum's family, yeah, they couldn't. There was my mum was one of 14. Although 2 of the babies didn't survive, that was still a big family. And so they lived in what was called a council house, so it was run by the local council, and the rent was a little bit more reasonable. But I think they only had a 4-bedroom house. The father had a room which he shared with 2 boys, 2 of the older boys. Some of them shared double beds. My mum shared a room with 3 sisters, and they top and tailed in double beds, the younger ones. So yeah, it was all they were all quite squashed in. I've never seen that house that she grew up in. I saw when she was a bit older and a lot of them were left, they had a 3-bedroom house, and they actually 3 of them they had a room each. I think she used to share the one room with her younger sister actually. But anyway, so yeah, it was quite a big family to provide for. They always had lots of food, but clothing and things like that, not so much. You know, they would manage. They would make the girls would make clothes. I think the oldest girl used to do most of the clothes making, and so it was cheaper in those days to do that than to buy pre-made, not like today when it's actually dearer to make your own clothes than to buy them. And yeah, I was telling someone this and they said, oh, you should write it into a book, this story about your family. I don't really know enough, and also it's not really only my story, you know, but yeah, you see what happened was, I'm going to leave the butterfly and just do the flowers. My the baby before my mum, number 12, didn't make it. All the others had, and then my mum was born, and then the baby after my mum didn't make it, and the mother died as well. So although it sounds very sad, it's a very long time ago, and my mother doesn't remember it all. And actually most of the children don't really remember it either, you know, they were all quite young. The oldest was 16, maybe 18, 17, something like that. There isn't much time between each one of them. And so the oldest daughter looked after all her siblings. She was in service, so working in a house. I don't know what she was doing, whether she was a lady's maid or whether she was in the kitchens or whatever, I've got no idea. But we didn't do the centres of these in the darker indigo, which I'm going to just do now. And so yes, she got called back home and had to look after them all. And that caused some problems because the older children didn't like being told off by her, but if they misbehaved, she had to act like the mother, you know. So that caused a few rifts. And they used to have a family meeting apparently every Sunday after dinner, you know, at noon. They'd have their dinner at noon. And often people would complain about her, and she would often pack her bag and say she was going to leave because of the things they were saying, and my goodness. But when I knew her, obviously everyone was grown up, and she was just lovely. She never left home. She just looked after her father as he got older. I think he retired when I was about 5. I've got photos of me at his retirement party. And she carried on working, and once she couldn't have a job when she was looking after everybody, you know, you can imagine. On a Monday she would do the washing, and she would wash sheets for all those beds. My goodness. But she used to just wash the top sheet, no, wash the bottom sheet, and then put the one that was on the top onto the bottom, so that she didn't have so much washing. And of course she hand washed. She only got a washing machine when her father died. I was 11. That's when she got a washing machine. Before that she always hand washed. She had a big Belfast sink in her back kitchen, as she called it, and a spin dryer and an airer, clothes airer, clothes horse. I don't know what do you call it in America? I'm trying to think. Where are we? We're going to do these. Yeah, clothes dryer, a drying rack. That's it, a drying rack. And she would put it around the boiler. Now the boiler used to heat the hot water. There was no central heating in the house, no radiators. So the boiler was cold. So it was a sort of square container with a lid in the top, and you would put the coal down inside it and light it, and there was a big chimney with a tank of water above it, and it would heat the water. And so it was very safe. It wasn't an open fire, so it would heat the water, and she would put her clothes airer around it to get the clothes dry if it was raining, or she'd have a whole load of washing lines. She probably had about 6 washing lines down the garden, I remember them all being full one day and that she ran out of clothes pegs. And that was just when it was her and her father. She must have washed all the spare bed sheets and things like that. But I remember her washing my toys once. I was staying with her and we went to the park and I ran down to the lake to have a look at it. And there was a fence between the path and the lake, which is probably quite fortunate. I put my brakes on my, I was running, I stopped, and I had a toy in my hand and it went flying over the fence into the lake. Oh my God. Did I ever cry? I was quite old as well. But anyway, probably about 8 or 9, I don't know. So she got a big stick. She fished it out the lake for me, and you can imagine it smelt vile. It's horrible. Got home, she washed it, put it in a spin dryer, hung it on the line. It was a little elephant. I like elephants. Hung it on the line by its ears. And it didn't smell after that. But yeah, I remember we used to go there a lot. Probably in the school holidays, every day we would go and visit my grandfather and my aunt. My mum would go every day when we were at school, I think, as well. She just was really, really close to her family. I remember on a Saturday, it used to be quite busy there. We would tend to go there in the afternoon, and my uncle, who worked in a bakery, would pop in, and often my aunt and my mum would order some food from him, and he would deliver it because he was coming by. I just coloured that one and I wasn't in camera, sorry. And he would bring a loaf of crusty bread, and maybe they would order corned beef and cheese, things like that from him as well, because they would keep it in the bakery to make the sandwiches, because they would sell all cheese rolls, things like that. So anyway, he would pop in, and if there were any leftovers from the shop, on the bakery, he would bring those and we would have those for tea. So we might have donuts or honey buns, a lardy cake, dough cake, all these things that you probably don't know. Sometimes there'd be honey buns, Chelsea's, that sort of thing, drippers. Now, lardy cake and dripper is really interesting. Now they call them different names to what they did then. I'm going to find something to do the butterflies with. I think I'm going to use this Koh-i-Noor pencil. This is the Koh-i-Noor dry marker, and it's a sort of bluey colour. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit different to what I've used already. And we're going to do these butterflies with it. Oh, it is quite different, that's good. Anyway, so what we used to say was a dripper was a square slab, individual portion. It's like a tray bake. So you cut a slab out, and it's, yeah. And it's basically a cake, a very heavy cake with lots of sugary, I don't really know how to describe it, coating on it. It's not like icing. Anyway, and then you would have a, lardy cake would be a cake, so a big cake that would serve, you would cut into slices, and it would have currants or sultanas in it. Whereas these days, when I buy a lardy or lardy cake, it's an individual portion of a tray bake type cake, but it's got currants in. So depending on where you buy them, they have different names. I'm sure it would have a different name up and down the country. In the UK, we're a bit, I don't know if it happens in other countries. I'm sure it probably does. I'm just trying to find the other butterflies. There's those. I know there's one in the bottom. I had a feeling there was another one. Maybe I'm going slightly bonkers. Here we go. Yeah, we have names for different things, like a roll. Like a roll is a round thing, like bread, but an individual round portion. In some countries, in parts of the country, sorry, they will call them a bun, but in this part of the country, a bun is sweet rather than, I don't know why I'm colouring that. That's flowers, isn't it? I'm getting a bit muddled. In some places they call them a cob. Some places like a cottage loaf, although I think that's a specific shape of roll. A bap. There's all sorts of names for the same thing. And I think the same thing happens with cakes and things. There we go. So these are flowers. They need to be coloured in the aqua blue, whatever you use for your light blue. Now we're getting to the end of the pencil work, definitely. Let's just put those pencils aside and have a look. Now what I want to do is I want to do some white pen work and some sparkly pen work. Let's do the white first. I've got a Posca here, white Posca, and I'm going to do like flower centres and things with dots. I just want to get some nice bright white details into every picture. This one's tricky. There's nowhere obvious. I'll put it on the... Oh, I don't think it's going to stand out. But yes, her family's interesting background. But yeah, they weren't very well off, but they've all done quite well for themselves now, which is good. Well, those that are left. They're getting... my mum is the youngest, so how old is she? 75 maybe? I should know, really should know. Ah dear. But yeah, I really should know. I could work it out. I can't do the maths while I'm trying to colour and talk. Yeah, I'm going to do some dots around these two. I better do over here, or else I'm going to be smudging. I can't see any areas for white on here. I'll do a few on the flowers, just on the middle one or something. Yeah, so, but as you can imagine, I've got a lot of cousins, and my dad was one of 3, and his 2 sisters both had 3 children each. Still quite a few cousins there, but my mum's family, there's a lot of cousins. No one had a really big family though. I think one had 4 or 3. There's quite a few that had 3. And one only had 1 child. A few had 2. One had none. The aunt I told you who always lived with her father, she'd never married. But yeah, lots of cousins. So we always had, of course the ones that were nearest to my age were the ones that I would play with the most. And on the Saturday they would often visit their grandfather, and we would always be there. So would often have someone to play with, which was good fun. And sometimes we were there on a Sunday too. It's rare, because we would see my dad's family on Sundays. Now, I was going to use some dark blue on the butterflies. I'm going to use this, I think. This is a Staedtler Triplus fine liner. And I'm just going to do some dotting around the edges of our butterfly, I think. I'm hoping that white isn't too wet because I haven't put anything down. Being a bit careless. But yeah, if we went in on a Sunday and the family were going off to church sometimes for coffee, but we wouldn't. I would usually go to Sunday school. I got up to an age where I found it too babyish because it was really for very young kids. And this butterfly. I'm thinking maybe I need to actually colour that whole border a bit, but maybe not. Let's just do some big dots. Yeah, Sunday school was really for younger children, so I got a bit like I didn't want to go. But sadly the church that we used to go to was burned down. It was in a rough area, and it's a bit of a shame. It's now houses. Right, the border is the last bit I'm going to do, and I'm going to choose. Now I've got this pen, which is a Staedtler metallic pen. It's not very shiny, but it would do the job quickly because it's a thick nib, so I might use that. But also I've got these Sakura, a metallic Sakura pen. I might use that. This is a metallic jelly roll. It's number 536. I think I'll use that. Actually, because it's going to go down quite quick still. Now, if you don't have the have a pen for this, you could do it in a very dark blue pencil. I couldn't seem to find a really dark blue pencil. You could always decorate it as well after with white dots, things like that. Be fun, but I'm not, because I want to see the shine. But if I was doing it in pencil, I'd do dots like I've done on this corner one here, on these corners. But you can do whatever embellishments you wish, you know. On the background of each one you might want to do some more dots, maybe in a glitter or a dark pen. You could put glitter pen over each of the flowers, you know, a glitter glaze to make them stand out. You might feel that this bit is better in glitter pen, or you know, the Posca that I showed you. There's so many options to just finish it off, really. It's the sort of finishing embellishments that can be the fun bit, really. Oh, it's a magpie making such a noise. Now normally I would turn this round, but I'm going to try and keep it the right way up. But it's awkward. I'll see how I get on. But yeah, we used to see my dad's family less because firstly both his sisters live abroad, and they moved abroad when he was quite young. The one sister, actually, yeah, they all used to live together, thinking about it. Not him, but his two sisters lived together with their husbands and their children, I think, for a while. But actually, no, I think just with their husbands. The one sister had a child at, she 21, a bit younger, I'm not sure. And her husband was American, and he was in the army. She'd met him over here, and she moved to America when her firstborn was a baby. So she went there she flew on her own with a baby for the first time out to America to meet her husband. You know, he met her off the plane, and she got stopped by immigration. I think it was quite difficult for her. Maybe that was another time she got stopped. Anyway, I don't know. But she had 3 children eventually, and they travelled. They lived in Germany, other places in Europe. had quite the adventure. Had various nannies for the children, things like that. Now they all live in America, most of them. The other one moved to Australia with her husband when her 3 children were sort of infants. They in the UK you were offered cheap flights to go to Australia and set up home over there. They were trying to encourage people to go and live there, and they took advantage and went over there. So my poor gran found it quite difficult, both her daughters disappearing off. But my dad always stayed close, and so he was there. We would see her each week. So that was, and my grandfather, I think he died when I was about 7 or 8. But my gran was my longest living grandparent. She, having not known my other gran at all, of course, let me think, it must have been 2003? About 20 years, wow. No, a bit less than that, because I became pregnant about 6 months after she died. Well, the boys are nearly 18. It had been quite a long time, but used to see her, and then we started seeing her on a Wednesday evening as well. My dad would collect her after work, and she would come over. And then sometimes on bank holiday, Mondays, things like that. She lived on her own, but she was okay. She wasn't lonely. She used to go out and do things, have friends, put the TV on for company, you know, all that sort of thing. Right, I think I'm finished. I have waffled on for a long time. But there we go. I just tip it to show you the metallicness, because that's a word. There you go. I quite like that metallic glow. So there is our page, all in blue. I just rather like blue. Now the border I wanted to keep white, but the paper isn't white, so it's a little bit cream, but I'm okay with that. You could use a white pen or paint or something to make it really white. I think that would look okay, but because my background is splotchy, it would make it look a bit yellowy, I think. You know, if you had a completely solid background in blue, then I think it would work. Right, my phone's ringing, so I'm gonna go. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a super day and happy colouring.